Every business is implementing AI in some way or another right now. But the issue is that most of them are thinking about it in the wrong way. They're looking at all these fancy AI tools, or they're looking at what platforms have the most AI features that they can use. But the issue is you have all these AI tools that solve these different things. You have AI for lead follow-ups, for WhatsApp, for generating reports, AI for content creation. And the issue is in asking what AI tool should I add next? But every time you do, you're adding another login or another platform for your team to learn, or another system that probably doesn't properly connect with the rest of the systems you're using. Before long, you have all of these different AI tools, each solving one small problem, but none of them actually work together as a whole. And I think that's where a lot of the confusion is coming from, is that everyone is selling AI as another product. But the real shift is not AI as another tool. It's AI as an operating layer across your business. So what do I mean by that? If you look at the graph here, most businesses have their systems in place. They have their CRM, they have their email set up, their calendar, they might have their WhatsApp business, their accounting software, whatever that might be. And what you don't want to do is start adding on all of these additional tools. So your AI for lead follow-up, or your AI for accounting, or your AI for content creation. And all of a sudden you have this bloated tech stack that just don't speak to each other. And this is the mess that a lot of businesses are at right now, is that they have the systems in place, but your team are manually transferring between them. So rather than adding more tools to the tech stack that your team have to swivel chair between, or more systems that don't talk to each other, the shift you need to be making is AI to wrap around the current systems that you're using, the current processes that you follow, and context to how you operate as a business. Now, what do I mean when I say AI as an operating layer or an operating system across your business? Because I feel the word operating system is also becoming a bit of a buzzword at the moment. So let me explain what I mean by some simple everyday examples. So if you think about your iPhone, you have your iPhone operating system, your iOS, or your MacBook, you have your Mac OS, or your Windows OS, your Windows operating system. So if you take your iPhone, you have your camera, your contacts, your emails, your apps, your photos, your settings, and they're all separate parts. But you're never really thinking about how they work together. Your phone just works, and that's because you have your iOS that sits across everything and ties it all together. So you don't have to think about how your camera connects with your Instagram or how your contacts appear in your WhatsApp. Your operating system handles all of that in the background. And that's how businesses should be thinking about AI. You already have the systems in place, your CRM, your emails, your accounting software, your project management system. You already have your process, so your sales process, your lead follow-up, your onboarding, delivery, customer support. You have your teams, and you have years of data and context. So most established businesses in particular, they don't need to throw all of that away. They've already built the systems. They already have processes that work. The problem is that people spend a huge amount of their time moving information between systems, updating CRMs, sending follow-ups, copying information, chasing people, checking one system and updating another. So your team are effectively acting as that operating layer between all of these systems that you have. So you should be shifting to AI as that operating layer. So not replacing your business, not replacing your tools, definitely not replacing your people. It should sit across everything, handle the work in between. So how can we have your team focused on higher value work, face-to-face with clients, building relationships, and not dealing with all the medial manual stuff that they're currently doing? That's the shift. So not AI as another tool, but rather AI wrapped around what already works. And the way I like to think about this is in a 3-layer system. So if you take your first layer, that's your tools. So the same way if you were to bring in a new member of staff, what systems do they need to get access to? Do they need to access your CRM, your project management, your calendar, your emails, whatever systems you're already using? You then decide what access do they have, what they're allowed to do, but more importantly, what they're not allowed to do. And then you look at the second layer, and this is probably the most important one. That's your skills. So think of SOPs, employee manuals. You hire someone tomorrow, give them instructions and context to how to do their job. So about the services you offer, how you deal with qualification, how you deal with customer support, how you update a particular field within your CRM. So the same way if you hired someone tomorrow, you'd give them context and instructions on how to do their job. So what you do as a business, how to qualify a lead, how do we follow up with particular prospects who've gone cold? What do we need to update in our CRM? How do we write our emails? How do we deal with objections? What terminology do we use? So that's exactly what you're teaching AI. You're giving it your way of working. And then the third layer is the AI itself. So right now we're mostly using Claude because we see it as the strongest model out there today, but that could change. So that might be your OpenAI with Codex. That might be Gemini. So in terms of the actual AI model you're using, that part doesn't necessarily matter. The important thing is that the setup is built in a way that allows the model to change over time. The model is simply the brain sitting across your tools and your skills. It's what's coordinating everything. So instead of giving your team another platform or tool that they need to log in, you want to be shifting to AI that works across the systems that you're already using. So for example, our team uses Slack as a communication channel. So if I need another team member to do something, I'll simply just tag them in Slack. So same way I would tag Andrew, for example, I would go ahead and tag our NexiServe agent in this case, which is Jane. So I can communicate with Jane within our channel, same way I would communicate with a member of staff. And Jane has access to the different systems that we use. Jane has context to our business. Jane has context to what our particular processes are, whether it be leads, our sales process, project management. So we interact with our AI agent in the same way that we'd interact with any member of our team. It's embedded into our systems and our processes. Or they might be simply running in the background. So updating systems, selling follow-ups, preparing reports, checking what's overdue, or flagging where someone needs to step in. So doing that all automatically without being told to do so. That's where I think the real opportunity for businesses is right now, is not trying to find an AI tool for every individual problem, but it's looking at the business holistically and asking, where are people still manually moving information, or where are things being missed, or where are processes slowing down because one system doesn't talk to another? Where is good business knowledge sitting in someone's head rather than being built into the way that the company operates? And that is what AI should help solve. Not by adding more noise or bloating your tech stack, by making what you already have work that bit better. So I put together a guide that breaks this down in more detail, including the 3-layer system that I showed you there and how to identify where this can fit within your own business. You can find that in the link below.